Today's guest is someone who embodies what it means to live in deep alignment with spirit and to answer the call of intuition even when it asks everything of you. Fran Bell is an intuitive healer, a former competitive athlete and coach, and one of the most grounded, gifted, and generous souls I've ever had the honor of learning from. Her path has been anything but linear, shaped by life-altering experiences that opened the door to her spiritual gifts and ultimately guided her to hold space for others on a soul level. Fran works in direct communication with spirit. And while that might feel unfamiliar or even unsettling for some, I invite you to listen with an open heart because the way Fran shares, teaches, and heals is anything but performative. It's clear, it's rooted, it's real. I've worked with Fran personally, and I can say without hesitation that her presence and insight have changed the way that I live, love, and lead, both in and outside of medicine. In this conversation, we talk about what intuition actually feels like, how we begin to trust it, and why reconnecting to this inner knowing is more than just a spiritual practice. It's part of how we reconnect with the art of healing. Fran, welcome. It's an honor to open the space with you.
Thank you so much. That was very lovely.
Well, I have a question for you, Fran. You have this beautiful ability to hold space for others while you're working, and you work hand in hand with spirit. Can you take us back to the beginning? What was your childhood like, and when did you realize that these gifts were part of who you are?
Yeah, I think, oftentimes we think we have a big event that takes us away from. And I found out my big event at 11, which was a big bike accident where I went unconscious and bled out, was in a coma for 2 weeks, actually let me see another field of play. And I got to be invited into an arena I had not been in prior. And as I came out of that, I was going to a woman's pool every day and sitting there because I didn't know what to do with myself. I was on crutches. I couldn't walk. My brain wasn't working very well. Um, and I would sit there, and all of a sudden, what happened and kind of how I got invited was that I started seeing pictures and images of what to do in the water so that I could heal. Because I was living in St. Croix in the Virgin Islands. I was 11 years old. They didn't really do physical therapy, or maybe they did. I don't know. But I didn't have anywhere to go. My mom was at work, and this lady would let me crutch up to her house, and I would sit there, and I would see these images and pictures, and I'd get in the water, and I would do whatever they showed me. And so I started talking to other, or they, quite young, and it was a great playground for me because my friends didn't want to visit because I was a little mangled in my face and mangled in my body, and it was hard on my friends at that age, right? Wasn't very pretty looking. So that's kind of how I started the path of what I called talking to other, because I didn't know who it was that was talking with me.
That's a lot to go through at such a young age. When you first started getting these messages, were they clear? Could you see them like you see pictures in a movie, or how did they come in for you?
Yeah, I think these first ones were really just about what to do in the water. That if I wanted to be able to move, right? I was very athletic as a kid. I mean, I think God blessed me with a lot of athletics to move through the energy of what I dealt with in my life. So I was always playing something, hitting something, running somewhere to move energy. But this was more about like being in the stillness and then seeing something. And whether I knew it would work or not didn't matter. It mattered that I tried. And that's where the process of learning to show up no matter what came in for me, right? So you have to accept, show up, and go.
I think that's really beautiful. And can you walk us through when you began to understand what you were sensing, what you were feeling? When did you realize you could use these gifts to help other people?
Yeah, so I think along the way, we get trained out of using our senses, right? We get trained into using our mind, figure this, solve that, make it do this, do that. And I think for me, what I was recognizing is that in my path, right? Probably later in life after 11, obviously, I think I started realizing that if I could see not with just my eyes, but my body, like how did my body feel when I was seeing what I was seeing, right? If I could hear with my ears, but like what was my body noticing when I was hearing? And so I started expanding my senses beyond the sense I was using to where everything became about a whole body experience when I was doing it. And obviously, I live in a place where there's a lot of trauma and a lot of things happened. And I didn't want to be in fear, but I felt like if I could expand my senses, not figure out how to be safe, then I would just be safe.
So it's more about cultivating that trust by
Yeah.
expanding your ability to sense.
Yes. Yeah, just really expanding that way, and it helped a lot.
And what was it like to answer that call, to say yes to becoming a healer in a world that demands proof? My field is very rigid. We need evidence to be able to say something works, but your field is on a different dimension, basically.
Well, it is, and it's still hard, right? I was doing this a little bit young, and no one believed it or trusted it, so I had to get really normal and do silly things that people do, and go full human and drink beer and get dumb in college and play sports and fit in. I really wanted to fit in, right? I wasn't somebody that fit in because I had this other group that I spoke to, and you couldn't talk to anybody about it. So I always hid everything I knew about healing through movement and exercise and fitness, and I would do it that way. And eventually I went to a spiritual medical healing school, and I started seeing things that were more like what I knew about, and that kind of let me find some freedom. That's really where the freedom started to come in, was like, oh, these people see things kind of like I do, and they have another way that they can communicate to the physical body, right? We have the emotional body, the mental body, the spiritual body, and to me they all should be integrated. If one part's off, the whole is off. And so it just allowed me to really open back that playground back up again, to find out what was possible, not the way people say it does and doesn't work.
That's really beautiful. And how did you find this healing school? I mean, where do they exist in the world and how did you find one?
Yeah, wasn't looking. I always think that, if you live your life by doing what's in front of you, right? Everything that shows up in front of you, then you get your whole life, right? I don't say yes or no. I just say yes more than I say no to everything. But a friend of mine had cancer, and she called to tell me she had cancer, and out of my mouth came, "You'll be fine." She's like, "You shouldn't say that to somebody that has cancer." And I felt it though, right? That she would be fine. And so she had found this school for herself and asked if I would go with her for a week and be support. And so I went for a week, and I ended up in a 3-year program because it spoke to my heart. And so I did the whole thing with her.
And you say it spoke to your heart. What happened to make you feel that? What does it mean to have something speak to your heart?
Yeah, I think when something inspires you, that's your heart, right? So it pulls your inspiration will always pull your heart forward. If something really moves you, it moves your heart. And then if you follow that calling, it'll continue to move you. That's really how energy works, right? If you start following, become a follower of the energy, it'll take you where you've always wanted to go. And as a little kid, I knew I wanted to heal people, but I wasn't going to let anybody know that. And I kept it completely hidden until I started spiritual and medical healing school. And I pretty much worked on probably 3/4 of the staff and faculty while I was going to school. And I was like, what is going on that they're asking me for sessions when I'm here to learn? But I had a component part, right? I had the physical side and the emotional side of how things worked. And I would move energy in them, and they were like, oh, something you're doing really matters to what we're doing. And then that's how it became, cohesive for me.
And you have a background in athletics and coaching, and you have this really good understanding of the physical body, right?
Yeah.
How did that become a synergistic tool in the work that you do in this intuitive healing?
Yeah, I think our bodies are really important, right? I think they really matter. I think our mind matters, our heart matters. It all has a very significant place, and it works together in harmony or not in harmony. And I like mine to work in harmony. Because of my head injury as a kid and subsequent 7 whiplashes and more brain injuries than one should have, I found out that trying to know everything really doesn't matter, but that I could figure out how to move my body to move energy, and how my emotions move my body, and how my body move my emotions. And so my athletes, the people that I were on my teams and then that I coached, I could always figure out if they had something going on. I could watch them walk or move and help them. And they were like, "How do you do that?" And I was like, "I don't know. I just know that if you pay attention, you can do it." And so somehow I was starting to harmonize them in college.
This episode of Open Heart is supported by Summit Group Wealth Management. Greg Berryhill and his team of experts help people create financial clarity so they can live fully and on their own terms. Learn more at summitgroupwealth.com. It's so interesting that you mention energy. In the physical medicine world, especially in my world where, we're taking care of patients with heart attacks, we're very focused on very physical details. And all of us have this sense of what's going on. We can't see it, we can't explain it, but we can feel like, hey, there's something that's going to need more attention in this area, or I should pause here. And we don't really talk about energy. Why is that?
Well, I think we're scared of it. I think we're all interested in it. And then I think you can't prove it, or we think we can't prove it. I think we can prove it. I think that if you get in the game of your life, you can prove it, right? People want to know that it works before they do a session. Well, they say it doesn't work or it does work, but they haven't found out, right? How open can a human be to receive energy, to receive healing really, really deeply matters. If they're wanting me to prove it, then it's not going to be so good for them because you have to experience it so that you can know. You can't know before you experience it.
Mm-hmm. And this actually is the perfect lead into our next question. How do you help people? What does intuitive healing mean to you? And how do you support people in this space? What kind of people tend to come and see you?
Yeah, so I am fortunate that I really get to work with everything. As I mentioned, I started where it was safe for me, right? Where it was safe for me was the physical body and neurology. I really liked kind of hacking the brain to get people to move things. It was really a lot of fun for me. And then eventually I started realizing that if they were carrying deep emotions or deep grief or different emotions, that it was stunting them or causing obstacles or out of orders for their life. And I realized these things started to have to come together, right? If they carried a lot of worry in their life, then the mind was overrunning what the other two systems could do. And so that I named the business Integrated Healing because I really realized that they all have to integrate super well, right? And that we want to I see everything, in answer to your question, I'm sorry, is I see everything from glaucoma to Lyme, cancer, mast cells, to backs, to, people come, they get referred by doctors. I have a nice network of doctors that actually work with me now, which I'm grateful for. Um, but physical ailments, emotional ailments, they all pretty much come at different times at this point.
I had no idea what an integrated intuitive healer was until I met you. I came to you, and we were talking about this earlier. I came to you for back pain, and I walked out with a whole new view of life and purpose that made just total sense to my soul calling. And whenever I had that experience, it made me realize there is a lot of value in your work. And unfortunately, people want the proof, like you said. But there is the paradigm of people in the medical intuitive space working with physicians and kind of building a synergy. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that we could actually do something like that? And would it become
Yes, I
a
think it's
model?
imperative, right? I think that we need to shift into that. It's really rare that in my work that I get to do a healing and then somebody gets an MRI to find proof, right? I've had a few instances where this has now happened, and so I've been in cancer, right? I've worked on lesions on the liver and cancer tumors, and people have gone and gotten MRIs, and they're showing up differently. They're shrinking, and the lesions are gone, and obviously, then the doctors can't make sense out of it yet, right? Because they don't know how to. That's not what they're trained for. I'm not trained to how to do a doctor either. So we have to learn how to. I obviously have to have a great background in anatomy and physiology, right? If I'm going to work on your organs or I'm going to do something, I need to be able to do that. But I also need the medical community. And oftentimes I'm fortunate, very fortunate, that I do have some functional medicine doctors and some other doctors where I live that truly understand what I do now and will work with me to help these clients, which I think is the most important thing if we can do it together.
Today's episode is supported by Don't Miss a Beat, beautifully designed educational manuals for the cardiac cath and EP labs. Thank you to Don't Miss a Beat for supporting Open Heart and empowering the next generation of healers. Now, back to our show. I think it's a really good point that you bring up. I think back to like Caroline Meiss's work with Norm Shaley, who is a neurosurgeon, and that model has been conceptualized. It's kind of been used, but it's not widely adopted. And I think it does go back to this um, difficulty that we have with perceiving things that we can't always prove.
For sure. And it's really hard. I mean, I asked you, if this is okay to share on your
Yeah.
podcast.
Oh,
I asked you,
open heart.
I had my first hardened heart. Well, that was something I hadn't come across. Right? So I definitely don't know everything. I actually know nothing because knowing nothing allows the energy to come in to help me. But I had a hardened heart and I felt myself get a little like, oh, I don't know what that is. And I had you happen to show up right after that gentleman called for my help. And I said to you, like, can you tell me what this is? Because they're talking about bringing a specialist in to drill in his heart. And that just doesn't sound good to me. And you were able to share what it meant from the medical side. And then I worked on him Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And when they went to do his surgery, they didn't need to drill in his heart. Like, to me, that's the miraculous. And I like the miraculous. And it took both. It took your knowledge and my willingness.
I love that demonstration of the synergy and the things that you describe. It sounds like somebody who has advanced coronary disease, blockages in the heart arteries oftentimes are very calcified, and those would require for us to go in with a special tool like a drill. It's rotational atherectomy, orbital atherectomy. There's like a ton of tools, right? And sometimes we have this understanding of like this patient has really complex anatomy. It's going to be a high risk procedure, and it's kind of interesting to think about it. Like, what if we did get help from this other modality, then potentially changing our course of action? Like, we don't have to do this advanced procedure. We can actually make it a much more simple procedure. And yeah, we can't prove it, but it's an interesting thought. And
it'd be a great study.
Yeah, it would be a great
it'd
study.
be a great study because you and I kind of did that for this gentleman. Right? We did, in my mind, I was shown what he needed, what I needed to do for him. And I did that for 3 days. I just kept working on him, working on him, working on him. And you kind of gave me the roadmap, which I need, to do that. And it worked. And I'm grateful. Like, I'm really grateful for that.
I don't believe in coincidences. I think whenever things happen, people come together to have conversations, these moments where we're brought together. It's almost like it's guided in a very, important way. And like you mentioned, if we're very present in that moment, we then actually are able to get what we need out of it.
Yeah, we do. And we have to make that commitment, or at least I did. I decided quite young to lead a spirit-led life. That's a big decision to make in my mind when you're young. I mean, I think a lot of people talk about it, but they let their humanity kind of run the show a little bit too much. Not that I don't let my humanity run the show. I do think it's important, but I really want to follow the order of life for me, and that is to follow the energy. That is to follow what's in front of me, the guidance, and to say yes, and to keep going whether I like it or not, and to accept all the trials and tribulations that have come with that yes, to have literally my life. I get to do magic stuff today because I just keep going forward.
I think that's really beautiful. And as I do more in the physical medicine world, I'm more open than I ever thought I would be, because I realize that there are things that I just can't explain with science, with what we've been able to describe through the literature. And I think also as a second generation interventional cardiologist, my dad is also in this profession. And the background that I come from, I just have all these questions that are big, profound questions beyond physical. And so meeting someone like you has been such a treat for me, because I feel like you've kind of expanded my view of what it means to heal.
Yeah, healing is happens all kinds of ways, and I think I shared this story with you earlier. We always think healing means I feel better, but it doesn't. Sometimes healing is finding your way back to God, source, spirit, the universe, totality, right? It's finding your way back home. Sometimes healing, working on someone's back, is getting their life back, like literally bringing them into being multidimensional. I don't think we're linear. I don't think we're one thing. I think we're all the things. And what parts of it are we willing to let come forward, right? So, it's healing just has a lot of different concepts to it. We say to make whole, but is the wholeness in your body? Is the wholeness your connection to God? Is your wholeness that you don't sabotage yourself anymore? Is the wholeness that you're not in reaction and you're now responding? I mean, it's what is to make whole?
Mm-hmm.
We think we know, but I don't think we know.
And you actually talk about these 4 stages of the soul in our evolution. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
The 4 stages of our
Or maybe
soul,
you call it something
the
different.
layers of the heart?
The layers, the 4
Oh, yeah.
layers. Yeah.
Yeah, so for me, as individuals, we have our ego identity and our personality. Very important for us to all have that. And then we have our heart, which is to serve another, to be in love, to be in kindness, gratitude. And then we have our soul, and then we have our secret, right? And so in the ego identity personality of ourselves, if we live there, it's really hard to heal because that energy down the road leads to, if we have a disagreement or something happens to us that we don't like, we want to blame. The ego wants control, right? It wants to be certain. So if something goes wrong, it wants to put the energy away on something else. And in the energy of blame, we actually rarely heal. So then if we get to the heart, it's I want what's best for another. I want what's best for myself and another. So we're already more open. And then our soul is, we get to we. When we operate from our soul, it's a we. There's no gender, race, religion, color in the soul. There's love. So we're all one. That's where we need to try to live more, in the oneness. But we're always trying to make ourselves better or be better than another. So we have to separate.
And how do we do that? How do we evolve?
It takes time, right? You have to be willing to get 100% in the game, just like a good athlete or a good pianist or somebody that has something they want to do. You have to go all in. I remember when I went to spiritual and medical healing school, I was still very strong in my ego, strong in my personality. I was an athlete. I was fit, I was strong, and called myself the Rock of Gibraltar, and nothing was going to take me down. And they're like, oh, well, once you start school, you'll definitely get sick. I'm like, well, that's a bad plan, but they said, oh, all healing paths, you have to be sick first. And I was like, that makes no sense to me. So the first thing they asked me to do was surrender, right? Surrender your way. And I was less like, I was so strong in my mind still. I was like, yeah, there's no waving the white flag going on over here. Like, you don't understand the life I've had. I'm not going down. And I didn't realize that all they were saying was, can you open to a new opportunity for a different way? But I was so competitive. I was like, there's no surrendering going on. And then, you have to bow your mind to your heart. You have to be in a deep bow. You have to go beyond what you know, because beyond what you know and beyond your resistance is everything.
And I met you at that point in my life where I had this complete upheaval of my identity and had this ego death, basically. And it really felt like a spiritual awakening. And I had no idea what that was. People in medicine do not talk about spiritual awakening, but we quite literally work between the line of life and death, right? And so
Yes.
we're constantly faced with these really big existential questions. And so when I met you, hearing some of these concepts gave me so much peace and helped me navigate that path in a very important and meaningful way.
Well, you're very pure-hearted, right? So of course, in your pure-heartedness, there's those difficulties would be challenging on someone like yourself and myself too, right? So you have to learn how to navigate and trust in these darker moments, right? In these darker spaces that can come in. You have to trust that you're still going in the right direction. The only way you can actually know if you're going in the right direction is if you have a commitment to that which you're doing. You remain committed to your commitment, which people don't do. Everybody does a 10-day diet they back out on, right? So you have to have a commitment, then a commitment to a commitment. And if you do that long enough, you end up with devotion. So for myself, for over 23 years, I've done something every single morning, whether I'm working or not, where I hand over my hands, the way I speak, how I hear, my senses to God, because I know that I'm going to be doing some things that I, Fran Bell, do not know how to do. And if I do it from what Fran Bell knows, it's likely not to go as great as if I surrender that which I said I wasn't going to do before. But if I hand over and have a daily devotion, which I do, and then I think I've mentioned this to you before, I have a gratitude practice that I also think is critical, that is said out loud, and I really like to feel in my body because it changes the cellular structure of me when I say it out loud and feel it in my body. And it just makes me see all the ways that everything has always been working for me rather than whatever troubles I may think I have, because we are trained to work on troubles. And I am trained to work on what's working because then I can see what's actually happening.
I think that's a very powerful shift in how we look at things. You mentioned a couple of things. So, whenever you say you basically surrender, you say I'm the vessel and I'm here to.
It's a little bit different for me, so I go through a process with water, and again, Native American Indian culture does this very well as well, right? They have a reverence, right? It's a reverence for that which you say, whether it's a prayer or what I do or what you do or what somebody does. What really has to happen is we need to get back into not doing something for something, but doing it because it matters to you.
Mhm.
Right? You do it because it matters to you I do this process every day. I feel my heart open and expand. I know that I've asked that my hands are totally clean and washed and pure for the way in which God wants me to touch people or help heal them. And I use the word God interchangeably with universe or spirit. Like it's whatever people's word is fine with me. But it's like, and then my mouth, that the words are spoken that God wants you to hear, that my ears hear what I need to hear to help you, right? I need to hear certain things to be able to help you. So if you're speaking to me, I'm listening to what you're saying, but I'm also registering the energy in your whole entire body. So I'm listening with my body to what you're saying, right? And so that has to be clear for that for me to be present. My eyes that basically I just ask that my eyes shine the love that God wants you guys to see, that you feel loved and cared for when you're spending time with me, right? And then where I walk and how I move. These so I turn myself over in that way.
What really strikes me is how many parallels there are between how you approach your healing work and how some people in my field approach our
Yes.
healing work. And
Yes.
people in my field, we don't talk about it as much, but before I scrub into a case, I always have this inner dialogue. And it's even before I became conscious of energy and all these other elements. And it's just basically saying, I want what's best for this person in front of us and the greatest amount of joy and least amount of pain as possible,
Correct.
and for the intended outcome
And you do it with reverence.
with
And I know you
reverence
do because I
and
know you.
love and
Yeah,
respect.
yeah.
And I didn't even know I was doing it. It was just kind of this subconscious reflex. And then whenever I'm doing cases, sometimes I feel like I'm just so deeply connected that, and also think about how many things are happening at once. It's like you're making thousands of micro decisions in an impossible amount of time. And it doesn't feel like it's all coming from logic, but it's coming from that sense of connection and knowing. And so it really does feel like we're very guided in our work as well, but we may not be able to kind of acknowledge it the same way or.
Well, yeah, and in a way we kind of do, right? We're both in the realm of possibilities. We know what our training is. I know the anatomy, I know different things, but out beyond that is literally everything, right? People want to wait till they understand before they take a step, right? They want to have knowing or knowledge, right? And so from 0 to however old people are, that's the base of knowledge that they can have. I live in no ledge. Right? I don't want the safety. I wanna find out. It's really I wanna, be so curious and so open that energy can move through me, and I can connect to things that I don't even know are possible.
And I think you have this really special ability to work in integrity, where you really keep the person in front of you and the intention very clear. And how do people navigate that? Because I think healing, wellness, even medicine, a lot of these spaces have become very difficult to navigate. How do you know that the person you're seeking guidance from, especially in such a vulnerable moment, how do you know that that person is a credible source?
Well, in the daily devotion for over 23 years, I sense it and feel it so clear. I have and I also do remembrance every day and a couple other things to make sure that my heart is completely dialed in. Um, I think if when I can lay my mind to rest, there's beauty and the majestic that can happen in there. So I really want to make sure that I operate from that integrity, and to do that, I have to be completely out of the way. Now, you've been in a session with me. I will use humor to cut some energy sometimes. I'll go into like a little bit of a moment to use humor on somebody to cut energy if they're getting too serious or they think it's too big because it's playful. Healing is playful on a certain level, right? The things that we do to ourselves is can be kind of funny sometimes,
Mhm.
you know? So,
Well, I do have another question for you, and two more things. So, as a physician, I've had moments during procedures that felt meditative, intuitive, like I was basically connected, channeling, whatever you want to call it. And those words sometimes scare people because I think we attach them with other parts of history that may not be as easy to digest. It's felt like something greater was guiding my hands. So, do you think that we're all capable of tuning in this way?
I do. I think that I don't think everybody wants to, but I think we're all capable if we want to. And again, it's going to come back to, your commitments, your devotions, your willingness to be 100% in the game of the life that's in front of you, not saying it happened to you, but it's happening for you. And everything, good, bad, or otherwise, is yours. Right? I remember my spiritual teacher, when I went to spiritual medical healing school, he said, "What hit you couldn't have missed you." And I was like, "What?" And then
I
I
love that.
realized that we get exactly what we're supposed to have. And if we can do it, if we can find our way through love in it, if we can find our way, no matter what it is, and realize it's for you, then you have your whole life. And
That's
that,
beautiful.
yeah.
And you've taught me how to feel a yes versus a no in my body, and it's been life-changing. And I really struggled with that self-trust. And I have so much trust when I'm in a procedure, doing cases, doing certain things, but when it came to my own life, I just had a blind spot. I just wasn't able to trust myself. And then you taught me how to do that, and I'm hoping that you'll demonstrate that for us once we're done here.
Maybe. I mean, yeah, sure. I mean, I think the hardest part is that we are so judgmental on ourselves, right? We can go and do a task for somebody else. We can go and do a task for our job. We can gain confidence in a job or a skill. We can gain confidence in this or that. Well, we always have these judgments on ourself where we don't trust ourselves. And oftentimes that comes from we identify through what our parents say we are, what our friends say we are, what our boyfriend, girlfriends say we are, what our teachers say we are, what our teammates say we are. And so we really don't know ourselves well. And if you don't know yourself well, then it's really hard to trust because you know yourself in action of your job, or you know yourself in something you feel confident in or you've gained confidence in. And then you need to ask a big question like, should I start a podcast? And you don't know whether or not to trust that because, it's hard, right? Or to take this job or that job because all of a sudden the trust goes out the window.
It absolutely is. And then sometimes whenever we feel this strong pull towards something that doesn't fit in terms of other people's expectations or views, you're like, where did that come from? And why does it keep coming up? And what does it mean?
Right, and you just said the most important thing. It comes from other people's expectations, which is how we're trained to live our life, is to make things good at home, to make things good for our boyfriend, to make things good for our husband, to make things good for, right? And we forget about ourselves. And if we do something for ourselves, we're told we're selfish. And then we get into our 30s and 40s and they're like, go find self-love. Well, isn't that selfish when you're a kid? Right?
Yeah.
We have to find out that we have to really know ourselves. We have to find out who we are when it's difficult. Who are we when we're happy? Who are we when things aren't working out?
And so I'm going to try to talk you into teaching us a little bit whenever we're done here,
Okay.
because I think, like you mentioned, the intelligence of the physical body and our ability to sense beyond our traditional senses is so valuable in every part of our lives. So I'd love for you to leave our guests with one impression. Your gratitude practice, I've adopted it myself and it's changed my life. In just 5 months, my life has completely transformed in the most beautiful way possible. And I would love for you to share that practice with us today.
Sure. So I know there's many, many gratitude practices out there. A lot of people have the way. But you have to truly, in all things that we do, you have to find the way that works for you. So this one was shared with me, as most things get downloaded to me, which is a way to um, say it out loud and feel it in your body so it's very visceral. I like to stand up when I do mine. I like to really feel it in my body. A lot of times I do it in the morning facing the sun because that feels really good. I like to have the sun on my heart and my throat and my third eye and my crown, and my hands are always open to the sun as well. And then I do my gratitudes, and they're big, right? They're really big. And it could be that I'm grateful for my mother as the master teacher she's been in my life, right? Because we all have some things, right? Or grateful for this or that. And then what happens is you say them out loud. I ask my clients to do anywhere from 10 to 20 in the morning. And usually after about 4 days, people run out of gratitudes and they keep saying, I'm grateful for my dog, I'm grateful for my house. But you really have to work at it because that's how much you've detrained looking at what is working in your life, looking at how the universe has showed up, looking at how the synchronies have been working. We are so trained to look at what doesn't work and solve that problem, but it's already over when it didn't work. So why would you solve a problem that's done? To me, you got to get on to what's next. And that's, for me, it's always been about when something happens, then what? And so the answer to my then what question is gratitude, because that changes the cells in your body. Every cell in your body has a negative charge on the inside and a positive charge on the outside. Gratitude brings it forward. And if you can start finding yourself at 4 and 17 and all these other ages and be very grateful for every event, everything that's happened in your life, it starts to absolutely change you, and it opens the vortex for more good things. It works similarly, like most people, when they see a car they love, right? They go, oh my God, that's a beautiful car. The next thing they say, I love. Oh my God, I love that car. Love is a high vibing frequency. All of a sudden you see that car. You park next to it at the grocery store. You drive next to it down the road. And it draws the energy in. So which is what gratitude does. And then at night, I ask my clients to do 5 to 10 of the day they just had. So we're training conscious and subconscious mind, and we're training our mind to always see good, which opens a vortex of energy for more good to come. But if we're spending time on problems, we get more problems because that's the energy we like. I just don't like to spend time on problems very much anymore.
I think this practice alone has been the most impactful change I've made in my life.
Yeah.
It's the
And
first thing I
didn't
do in
you
the
find it
morning.
hard? Didn't you stall out at
Oh
some
my
point?
gosh, yes.
Like you stall, and that's what people don't like. They don't like the stall. They don't like the uncomfortable. They don't like that. So they want me to fix it, which I won't do, or they want to make it go away through another exercise or retreat or this or that. But those moments, those are the precious moments, right? Those moments where you stall and you have to find yourself and find what you're grateful for or find goodness, that's your growth. That's where all the growth happens.
These words like channeling, spirit, energy, they can make people really uncomfortable. And I'm curious about why that is. And what's your message to people who are open but cautious about these things?
So I love a healthy skeptic always. But I think that, you know, a person doesn't know how to, let's say, play the piano, right? But they still have to go practice if they want to play the piano. These words are uncomfortable because they're out beyond what people know. They're out beyond what we talk about. They're just out beyond normal conversations. And we've been told it's weird and it's woo-woo and all these words. And believe me, I avoided this a lot, even though as a kid I said I wanted to change, the family dynamic in me, and I wanted to be a healer, right? I knew that I wanted to heal very young from what I went through, right? But then I found out it wasn't easy because people are like, well, you're a witch, or you're, weird, or you're all those things. And I remember when I first started channeling, I was like, oh shit, like that's weird. and and cool at the same time, but I was like, how am I gonna know the difference? So I had to really work on the discernment, right? Because I, Fran Bell, don't want to give advice in places I can't give advice. And I have my body of knowledge, which I'm deeply grateful for. But I know that I don't give advice when I'm channeling. I'm giving medicine for your soul, and you're either going to do it or you're not. So when people go, you gave me advice, and I'm like, oh God, what did I say? Because I don't know what I say sometimes, right? It does happen. The more you open, the more you're devoted, the more it's what happens to you in a surgery. That guidance comes. Do you want to call it channeling? No. Why? Because somebody will say it's weird. But is it still happening? Yes. It's still happening, right? I can't know how to do half of the things that I do. I didn't read a book to how to heal a hardened heart. I've not read books on how to heal glaucoma with just your hands. My faith, my trust, my love, my gratitude, my courage, they have to guide me. And in staying in faith, love, trust, gratitude, and courage, I now have a spirit team, I guess, that works with me. People lay claim to them, like my guides and my this and my that. I don't do that. I've never done that. I won't do that. I'm just delighted to be a part of the process. And so I don't lay claim to it. I don't lay claim to being clairsentient I just do the work because that's what I came to do.
I think that's really beautiful. And I really do feel like I'm low-key channeling, and I don't know if I can say that, but I'm gonna say it, and
Yeah.
that's what
Right.
I've come to realize over the last year. I've had all these
Right.
questions, and I really think that we are connected to more, and the more physicians I've talked to in physical medicine, the more people are like, "Oh, yeah, like, that's normal for me too," and we just don't talk
I
about it in the
think
same
we need
words.
to.
I
I
think
think
we
we
need
need to
to.
talk about it. I think I have a friend, well, 2 friends now that can actually tell when I start to channel, and they grab their phones because they know that I'm not gonna remember anything. They just know I'm gone, right? And they see it now. They see I feel it, so I always know when I'm me and when I'm channeling, so to speak. I don't, like, sit down and think, "I'm gonna channel now." That just sounds weird. Um
A lot of our audience may not know what channeling is. Can you give us a quick one-liner on what is channeling?
I think for me, the way I see it is that information comes in that I absolutely have no awareness of, right? There's something really I hear it come through my mouth and I'm like, "Oh, that was really good." And I sense it and I feel it, but I don't remember it later or anything like that. I was sharing with I think it was you yesterday that, recently I was working on a client and I heard I had to do work in the mitochondria, and I was like, "The mitochondria?
The
I don't know
powerhouse of the
I
cell.
I don't know how to do work in the mitochondria," which is how everything happens for me, right, when it's new. And so I use applied kinesiology and muscle testing science to ask that person's body where to start. This is not something I know how to do. This is the first time this ever happened to me last week. So when it's new, which happens, right? I'm working on something new. I don't know what I'm doing. There's not a book for how to heal mitochondria. So you just have to trust, and it's deep. That trust is really big.
I think a lot of it also applies in my world. It's we're taking on patients and everybody's different. Every
Yes.
single patient is different. Every scenario is different. Every decision leads to a different pathway, a different outcome, but you have to trust in that decision as you make it. And I feel that we are so guided if we're open,
Yes.
but we also become so disconnected in medicine because we as healers have kind of lost our connection with what it means to heal internally within ourselves. At least that's my belief. And so, do you think it's important for us as healers in this space to keep ourselves in a state of being able to receive?
Yes. I think we have to be in a state to receive and to serve. And I think in your world in medicine, you guys all get in it for the right reasons. All of you do. You get in it to love and serve. You get in it to heal people. And then it gets a little hard, right? Because we got to do it faster. We have to do this and that, right? In where I work, there's no rules. You guys have a lot of rules. I just don't have rules. And so I get to keep finding out more and expanding more. And it's not that some stuff doesn't scare me. And sure some of the stuff you do scares you too, right? But we're not supposed to talk about that. But it's real.
Absolutely. And
So you
we,
go and do it anyways, because then you find out you can,
yeah.
right? And then you know more. You have really a deeper body of knowledge than anything you ever learned the day before you did that procedure.
I think patients don't fit textbooks, and we follow that guidance. We use our knowledge to the best of our
Right.
abilities, and then we kind of have to go with it, right? And that's why I don't believe that clinical intuition is pattern recognition, because we've all run into situations where we've taken care of people and we've done things that we've never seen before and they've worked out well. So I really appreciate your insight, and yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
When we're offering a service, whether you offer your service or I offer my service, and we go into it with excellence, which is a choice we have, right? It's just brilliant.
Yeah.
Right? If I'm trying to prove what I do or you try to prove what you do, a little less brilliant.
Yeah.
Right? But we're in the magical. Your years of study, my years of devotion, right? They're the same. They're
the
technically
exact
my
same.
it's my years of study, right?
Yeah.
Is my commitment to my commitment and my devotion, your commitment to your commitment to do 15 years of school
Yeah.
and do all that. Like, they're the same to me.
Yeah.
It's not like healing's a gift. It's a work in progress to really be good at it, right? And
I wish that somebody like you gave me this conversation as a lecture in medical school. I think it would help a lot of people going into medicine, because you're right, we do start with that really good intention of helping people.
oh my gosh,
But we're not given this type of tool to connect with what guides us.
So
You know what helped me build trust in you? It's just so funny now that I'm thinking back to it, because I feel like I've learned so much from you just over the many sessions that we've done. But you were doing my first session and you had your hand over my left rib cage and you were like, something happened here. There's a scar. And I was wearing a shirt. You couldn't see anything, but it was a tattoo that I got. And it's the only one that I have.
Oh, wow.
And you were like, actually, when you do something to your body like this, it can hold the energetic imprint of that experience. Like whether it's the time in your life that you were going through or the person who was doing it or the materials that were used.
Yep.
And I was like, there's no way that you would have known that.
I didn't know you.
Yeah, you have no idea.
Yeah.
It's just really cool. And it's like, every time we've done this experience,
Yes.
I've like learned something different.
Yeah.
But I've also realized like I can't intellectualize what you're doing.
I
should
can't
not.
intellectualize what I'm doing. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
But
you know,
I feel something.
yeah, no, everybody does. And the thing is I have, you know, deep respect for, you know, the heart and soul of people, right? And so I try to meet people where they're at. One thing that I think is important to know, when you work with anyone who's in integrity and very good in this work, they will not go where they're not invited.
Yeah.
So I don't go in people's system, regardless of my abilities. I won't share something you don't know about yourself to you. I might touch something where you go, oh, I had a thing when I was 5. Now you know, now you're a part of it, right?
Yeah.
And then we're doing it together. But I would never bring up something that you may or may not be ready for, and I've also asked that I don't see anything that somebody doesn't really want me to see.
Yeah.
Right? So I do think that that's very respectful and kind.
You work in integrity.
I'm not going to see all your secrets. I mean, I told you this as well, like that, you know, tattoo or whatever. Your secrets are very safe with me in that there's no bigger or smaller secrets to me. And I may find out something in here that you didn't tell me, which is fine. But I usually forget, as I did that story, once you leave, because I'm so deeply here for you, not here for what I can do. Mm-hmm. This has nothing to do with what I can do. This is literally, truly about you. So I have to let it go to do the next person. So your secrets are absolutely safe. When you leave and while you're here, we're going to uncover a few things.
And I also just want to mention that, like, you know, working with someone like you and meeting you in particular, it helped me develop discernment for, you know, people that I want to engage with in terms of a healing type of relationship. Mm-hmm. I think you do work in very high integrity, and it's like a feeling thing. I can feel it. Mm-hmm. And as I've developed deeper self-trust in that feeling, it helps me with my discernment of who I engage with and who I would rather not, you know, kind of participate with. But the one thing I really admire about you, it's never fear-based. It's never like, if you don't do this, something terrible will happen to you. And I think that's one of those like red flags that goes up in my mind as I've been navigating this world of healing. And the more egoic, like, I can do this, I'm the only one that can do this, it kind of disempowers you. Like, that's not really part of that.
Yeah, I'm here for your empowerment, your empowerment, not empowerment, right? Like empowerment. Like I'm
empowered.
I want you to live in joy, not ENJOY life, right? I'm here for your wholeness. I have so many people. Liv actually just asked me the other day, and she had done my chart, and she's like, your chart's crazy, and which was wonderful. I don't understand that stuff. But she was like, you know, your whole chart lines up that you're a healer and you're a shaman and something else. Yeah. And she goes, why don't you tell anybody that you do that? And I said, because it's not about me. It doesn't matter if I'm a healer or an intuitive or a clair this or that or a shaman. It matters that you get well. And if it's me, great. And if it's not me, I'm going to help you find somebody. Like, I don't have that. It's just never been in me that way. So I'm an offer. All right, let's get you to the table. Okay. And let's just show everybody what this is, how easy it is. How easy it is.
I'm always a little bit off center.
And you,
my baseline.
Well, you're pretty good today. All right. So, turn this over. And we're just going to connect for a second. And so what usually happens is, like right now, if you feel me try to muscle test you, can you feel how tight you are? Mm-hmm. So what happens, so right now, the way I choose to muscle test is this way. A lot of people do this. I don't like that because then the brain and the muscles have to be involved. But I wait, and this is me asking you down here. I know you've given me permission mentally, but this is me connecting to your body. And I'm just waiting, and what'll happen when it joins, when our energies merge, it'll go to that, nice and loose. You feel the difference from when we began? So now I know that we're here together working, that I'm not special, it's us together. Because you're now in your body and in your head, both allowing me. And then I might check your nervous system to see where we're starting today. And that's okay. A little tight here. Can you feel that? Mm-hmm. So just your legs not moving the way I would love to see it move. And then this leg, again, kind of tightish, right? Mm-hmm. And this ankle's a little tighter than the other one. Can you feel that?
Yeah.
So for me, that means your back, while it's doing much better than it has in the past, is still slightly fatiguey tired. Mm-hmm. And maybe your right neck or shoulder is also slightly tired. So that's how I would kind of evaluate just the nervous system. And if I try to do this, there's just not enough movement for me for you to be free, right? And so we're going to want that to be super loose by the time we're done.
You know, when I met you, I was doing traditional therapy and also, you know, just starting to get into this healing type of work. And after I started working with you, it was to the point where all the things that I've been talking about forever, I didn't feel like I needed to talk about them anymore. It felt like a physical release of it.
Well, yeah, what happens is when we talk about the story over and over again, right? Each cell has a negative polarity inside and a positive polarity outside. And as we talk about it, we're either building the positive or we're building the negative. You keep talking about a story that harmed you, you're building the negative.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you just got to get it out of the body, so you just don't even want to talk about it, right? Once you get it out of the body, then the necessary to talk about it isn't there.
Like I thought some of the things I would never be able to, you know, kind of shift in my thinking or in my life, but it's amazing. It's like it doesn't even impact.
You're just responding differently, right? You're not reacting to things. You're not protecting yourself. You're just not doing those things that you did automatically, not even knowing you did them automatically and thinking you couldn't stop them. But the reason you couldn't stop them was you kept talking about them every day.
Yeah.
It makes zero sense to me when we want to get well. For me, you know, for some people that's their path. Me, I like to move energy. So, you know, I think God gifted me with a lot of athleticism when I was young to move energy for what I had to deal with. You know, for you did it your way. Those sore?
Yeah, definitely sore there.
So is there anything specific you had today that you wanted to work on?
It's the usual stuff. I'm just brewing in the same thing.
Okay. No problem.
It's more the relationship, the job, the work, but it feels better. It doesn't feel like anything needs to change quickly, but I do need to build some courage to make actionable steps.
Yeah, so interestingly enough, watch this, because you just said courage, right? So say, I need to build some courage.
I need to build some courage.
And feel how loose your hand is. Okay? So courage, so your thymus sits right here. Your thymus is in front of your heart center. And the things that really feed it, faith, love, trust, gratitude, and courage. Courage. So I know
you touched that area. I'm like, I need courage.
I know, it's the first thing you said when I put my fingers here. So, and your body agrees. But you know, your courage will build in the way that you're already starting to do things. You're starting to see that life works out when you follow yourself, not when you figure out how to do yourself, but you follow your guidance. So it begins to show you. And then you took a courageous step to do your podcast, right? You've taken
Thanks for being there day one.
Yeah. But you've taken some courage, that was new. You know, and then you took some courageous steps to have conversations with people in the medical field about this side of your life. That is courage. So you already have been building it, right? It's just you think some of these other things that are on your mind are bigger than you want to deal with. Nothing's bigger than you want to deal with. They're going to come in order that you can do them.
Yeah.
But if you put a thought on there, it's bigger than I can deal with, and it's a problem I don't want to deal with, then that's going to stifle you, right?
I like that. It will come as it needs to.
It'll come
when I'm prepared.
Yeah, it'll come. It's like we don't need to rush things. We don't have to make grand decisions. I mean, if we have a life or death decision, yeah, make it, right? But
That's true.
This isn't a life or death decision, right? This is really more of a timing issue if it's meant to be. So you keep taking the courageous steps on the little things that you're doing. You're practicing courage, and then you get more comfortable with it, and then you walk through courage on Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, and then you do it on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and then you do it on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You know, you'll do it when you're ready to or you want to, but people try to start from eating the whole apple, and you have to take a bite first. So you've taken a few bites recently.
And they've been great.
And they've been great.
Love apple.
And just look at how many people you've met doing this, and how many people are amazed at what you're doing.
It's so
and
guided.
So that is it. So don't say I need to build it. It's just like I look forward to opening more of it, because you already have it.
To opening more courage.
Yeah, in right timing.
In right timing.
Right? You don't need to be in charge of that.
If somebody doesn't make it through the procedure, or if somebody has an outcome that we don't want for them, like we pass.
Well, and that's why, as you meet with them, right? As you meet with them and you talk to them and you're with their heart and their soul, not their personality, they feel that, right? And you might be their last hands before they join God's hands.
Yeah.
Right? You might literally hold their heart before they go, especially in your work, right? So, my share of that is, when I first began working with cancer patients that were, stage 3 and 4, a little further down the road, and I was helping this gentleman here in town, and he came in. He wasn't able to come in. I did his first one remotely because he was so ill, and then he was able to make it to the office. Look at you, because that's getting weird. And, and so he was able to make it into the office, and I worked on this morning. He's like, oh my gosh, I feel closer to God. And I was like, okay, because I just didn't know what to do with that exactly, right? I mean, that made me happy for him. And he was getting better, and he had energy, and he was able to take walks in the park again and do a couple of things. And he was canning strawberries, and he was so excited because he did it every year. And he was able to can all the strawberries because he had the energy for it. And so we did a couple sessions, and then a few weeks went by, and he died. And I remember being quite upset, because in my little brain, healing means being well, right? And that wasn't a version of, in my brain, he died, right? So it took me, so I remember going outside, and I always talk to the universe and totality and the sun and whatnot, and I was like, if this is what you want me to do, I'm a little less interested right now. Like, this is hard on my heart, right? It was hard on my heart. And then I was like, went about my business again. I was frustrated, but my heart was really tender. And his wife ended up having me over, and she was thanking me for all the ways in which it helped their relationship. He was connected to God. He wasn't afraid of dying. All the different things that came in for him. And so I was like, oh my goodness. So I went back outside, and I was like, fine, I accept, we're going to keep going. Because I understood, it just changed my perspective. My perspective is I'm supposed to make it better.
Yeah.
Right? When you're young, it's supposed to make it better. Same for you and your profession. You're supposed to make it better.
When you told me that story, it was actually like very healing for me internally, because if we do enough procedures, if we take care of enough patients, we're going to lose someone.
Yeah.
And I took those so hard. It was so heavy on my heart.
Yeah.
And once he said it like that, I really came to peace with that idea of like, we were meant to be there at that time with them, and the outcome was not in our hands. And it was really that we were intended to be there for a purpose or a reason that we can't necessarily always understand in that moment.
Right.
But there's always something there.
Right. Yeah. And for me, after this gentleman, not long after him, I had a gentleman with mesothelioma cancer, which is, lungs filling up, and same thing, remote session. I drained almost his entire lungs because he wasn't breathing and he was able to breathe all of a sudden and all the things. And he also made it into the office after that. And then he asked me to help heal his entire family, a daughter with the liver disease, hepatitis from drinking too much and needles and different things, and son. And I ended up healing his whole family when his wife, his son, his daughter, and everybody was good. About 2.5 years, off he went. Because everybody was good. And then I was okay, right? Because I understood like the bigger picture of what I was doing, right?
I don't know if you remember this, like early on, we did a session and I was telling you about one patient in particular who really stuck out for me. He's a young person and he came in with really bad blockages in all the arteries, came in heart failure. And I did everything I possibly could to try to get him to surgery. And the surgeon at the time said, he's too high risk, I'm not going to take him on. So I tried to transfer him to different hospitals, but it turned out he didn't have healthcare insurance. So nobody would accept him. And we were just kind of like, I just had this really like heavy feeling. I was like, I have 24 hours to get this done or else this patient will not survive.
Yeah.
And I just knew it. And I actually gave an extensive sign out to all my partners in case they get called in the middle of the night. Like, this is our contingency plan of like going in to do a high risk intervention. And that patient ended up having cardiac arrest within that, after that 24-hour period, and he didn't survive. And I was like really beating myself up, like, man, how did we not get this person to this definitive therapy? He's, young, viable, has a family, has a life. Like, how did we kind of let him slip through the cracks? And during one of our sessions, he said to me that that person is actually at peace with it. And that's the way it was meant to happen. But I just remember I like held on to it, and it wasn't until I quit the job and like 3 months later went to the beach in Costa Rica and I just started crying, and I didn't know where it came from, but I could feel it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, there's so much more, our soul doesn't know color, age, religion, gender, any of it. It just doesn't. And it doesn't mean we should be lazy, right? And let our soul, whatever, but it's like back to grace. We are actually not in charge. We're here as an offer or an opportunity. And it's, to me, what I think I've learned more than anything is that I bring people home, right? And home is to them. And sometimes home is to oneness, right? To God, back, if they pass, then I know they're good. I've helped multiple people pass at this point, and they're good. They're really good. But thinking that I'm supposed to save everybody, healer, that is not the role. I'm not the savior. I participate in healing. And healing sometimes is helping somebody return home, like to themselves, to their okayness. And sometimes it's to their faith.
Fran, thank you for showing up with such rawness, clarity, and power, and for reminding us that listening to the quiet voice within is not only possible, but it's vital. You've given us a glimpse into what it looks like to dive deep into alignment with spirit and what it means to hold space for others with bold humility and strength. Your story, your teachings, and the way you walk between worlds, honoring both the seen and the unseen, it's a gift. For anyone listening who's just beginning to ask these questions or feel their own intuitive nudges, let this be your permission to stay curious. Your intuition is not something that you have to earn. It's already part of you. And as Fran so beautifully reminded us with this practice, presence and trust, we can all learn to tune in. If today's conversation stirred something inside you, visit our website and follow us on socials. We've got simple ways for you to begin experimenting with these practices, including Fran's embodied gratitude practice, which has completely transformed my own life. And also, we'll get her to hopefully teach us how to connect with our intuitive yes. As always, follow your heart, stay open, and let the quiet wisdom within you lead you home. This is Priya Rao, signing off.